I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful we are and be ashamed. I too am America.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for the special presentation tonight, presented by KayJo Creatives in partnership with UCR Arts Third Thursdays Talks, Voices of I Too, inspired by the poem by Langston Hughes. My name is Katie Porter, and I am Executive Director of Inlandia Institute, a literary and cultural arts nonprofit based in inland Southern California. Before we begin, Inlandia Institute respectfully acknowledges and recognizes our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, the Cahuilla, Tongva, Luiseno, and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, the Inlandia region is home to many Indigenous peoples from all over the world, and we express our gratitude to them for allowing us the opportunity to live and work on these homelands. On May 25th, 2020, a tragedy occurred. George Floyd was murdered at the hands of the police. And further tragedy upon tragedy was that this was not a solitary incident. It was one of many that occurred this year and every year in the history of this country. As an organization centered around the power of words, one that values speaking up and speaking out, Inlandia made a renewed and public commitment to providing a space for people in the Black community to come together. And from that arose a Black-led Black Voices Steering Committee and a new series of events that we've called Blacklandia. And out of that program came this program, Voices of I Too, which is a project of KayJo Creatives. So tonight's event is hosted by KayJo, and here to tell you all about the project and more about what they do is Kia Vance. So welcome, Kia.
Thank you, Katie. First, I just want to start by saying thank you to Inlandia and UCR Arts for highlighting these voices of I too, and also just creating somewhat of a home for these conversations to continue. A little bit about KayJo Creatives. First, I'll start with who Natalie is and who I am. Natalie Graham is the production director of KayJo Creatives. She completed her MFA in creative writing and PhD in American Studies. Her debut collection, Begin with the Failed Body, UGA Press 2017, won the Cave Canem 2016 prize. Natalie has consistently and successfully coordinated arts events in Southern California, including 3 all-day symposia with over 300 participants each. She is the Associate Professor and Chair of African American Studies at CSUF, and she's also the Director of the Institute of Black Intellectual Innovation. I'm the Creative Director of KayJo Creatives. I completed my BA in African American Studies at Cal State Fullerton. I use art to challenge society to have difficult but necessary conversations. I've completed significant coursework in the performing arts and was selected as a scholarship recipient for the Sundance Institute to develop my first feature-length screenplay, Undone. A little bit about us. And so KayJo Creatives is an innovative media company with a mission to create community and reveal the beauty of humanity. We're dedicated to hosting culturally relevant arts programming and creating arts content that empowers diverse creators at all stages in development. We believe in the power of the narrative to change the way we imagine new futures for communities. Art and joy are necessary to express and experience our fullest range of humanity, and every person deserves equal access to creative arts that speak to their history, community, and culture. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram at KayJo Creatives. And so I too, what is I too? Why I too? So Natalie and I, back in 2018, so almost 3 years ago, next month it'll be 3 years, we had a desire to create a feature-length documentary that would serve as a platform for Black men to speak openly and as experts about themselves. The narratives that we typically find surrounding Black men in social documentaries are narrow, and maybe it's around police brutality, or there's some sense of like stardom or something like that. Like it's usually narrow and it's not told from their perspective. So you have these celebrity voices that are more prominent in these documentaries. And so we wanted to highlight the men that are family and friends that we've seen growing up and come from where we come from. And so we interviewed 100 men, and we just officially posted our 100th photo on Instagram, so you can check out the whole gallery of all the men and one quote from each man. And so tonight you'll hear a little bit about what a few of them had to say in response to a couple of questions. The first question is, the first question is, what do you value most? And the second question is, do you feel free? So some of the questions were more heavy, and some questions were as light as, if you had to choose a color between yellow or orange, what would you choose? But generally, the questions surrounded ideas around masculinity, relationships, and identity. So here's a little bit about what they had to say. I believe I'm passing it over to Natalie now.
Yes, thank you, Kia. And again, I'll just echo my gratitude for Inlandia, for UCR Arts, and really for the men who made time to sit down with us in the first place, to believe in their vision and believe in our vision, to share their voices, and who came again to this panel. One of the things that we're so interested in and want to see is community built and connections made. And so I think that this is just the first of many roundtables and discussions and celebrations of those men. The thing that I love the most about Black people is the diversity within Black culture. Like a lot of times what happens is Black folks get represented in one way or a couple of ways, or really, tired, the same tired images and stereotypes. And so I think just this panel of men represents a diversity that's within the Black community. It's a really diverse panel. I'm going to introduce them briefly, just to give you a little bit of a taste of who will be talking tonight. Frito Marcelin, our host, and one of the first men that we interviewed, was born and raised in Miami, Florida, to Haitian immigrants. He later received his degree in industrial engineering from the University of Florida. Currently, he resides in Atlanta, Georgia, where he works for an insurance company and runs a soap business, Martus Naturals, with his wife, Diana Marcelin. Eric Devon is father, author, educator, and poet. He has hosted open mics, facilitated workshops with the local literary laureate, and is co-founder of Innate Divinity Books. Eric received 2 degrees in kinesiology from California Baptist University. He teaches elementary physical education in San Bernardino County. Nate Hard is originally from San Bernardino, California. He completed his Master of Science in Kinesiology with a concentration in sports performance at Louisiana Tech University in 2011. He earned his bachelor's degree in kinesiology with a concentration in sports management from Grambling State University. He now serves as a full-time assistant swim coach at the University of Redlands. Dr. Jamel Carter has over 15 years of work experience and nearly a decade in higher education. Dr. Carter is a well-equipped industrial organizational psychologist with a Doctor of Philosophy in Industrial Organizational Psychology, a non-terminal Master of Science in Industrial Organizational Psychology, and holds a Master of Business Administration. Dr. Carter has worked in the areas of instruction, student services, institutional effectiveness, human resources, and workforce development. Ricardo Darby is a proud father from San Bernardino, California. He's a jack of all trades, and he is often seen working on cars and especially loves the Chevrolet Chevelle. He wants the American dream and isn't afraid of working with his hands and bargain hunting to get it. He's involved in the men's ministry and the parking lot ministry at Cathedral of Praise. And lastly, DJ Muda, who may be joining us a little bit late, is entrepreneur, DJ, and community organizer. He's known for his capacity to create unforgettable experiences and signature events. And right now, I just want to, before I toss it over to Frido to moderate and host a panel of just a discussion among the men, I wanted to give you, me and Kia wanted to give you a taste of some of the answers and sort of remind the men also of, the things that they said, because some people like Frido, it's almost been 3 years since we interviewed him. So I'm going to share a little bit of the audio from the interview. So you'll hear, like Kia said, you'll hear at first their answers to the question, what do you value the most? And then you'll hear their answers to the question, do you feel free?
What do I value most? Good gosh, these questions, my gosh. Get into my introspective right now, man.
Get into it.
What do I value most? Oh my gosh. Wow. I value my wife a lot. With her, she has made my life 10 times, 100 times better,
It's like there's ups and downs in your career, there's ups and downs in financial situations, ups and downs, but like joy kind of is immovable. So me, I value having that joy in my life no matter what the circumstance is. I also value, I'm learning that like a lot of things are kind of fleeting. As like in my 20s, I still take things for granted. But in my 20s, like I definitely, in teenage years and 20s, you take things for granted. And I think that as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize like, dang, one day I'm not going to be here, you know what I'm saying? So like I'm starting to value time a little bit more and it took me a little while, but to realize like the other things that I put so much more time and energy in kind of don't matter. Even if the things for me, with my faith, things that I kind of thought mattered even in my faith kind of don't matter, the things that I'm finding out, like a lot of things are like internal things that I put value in because of insecurities, because of experiences, because of, positive or negative, just, circumstances. I put value in certain things. And then the longer I live, the more I realize that stuff doesn't even matter. Like,
the concept of truth is the biggest concept, the biggest idea. It's bigger than God to me, because within truth is whether or not God exists. What matters most to me is the truth. That does not mean I always tell the truth. But I think it's important to at least approach any situation from a perspective of acknowledging the truth.
What do I value the most? I'd probably say family, and my family. I value my family a lot. Being a strong individual, I always feel like I'm always be there for my family. So I'm probably gonna say family.
Yeah.
So I think when we look just as African Americans and we talk about equity, and we're looking at it from a societal standpoint, we've started from a deficit. And now we're at a point where we're seeing inroads being made as a result to now you have more African Americans owning property, owning businesses, going to school. there's a long way to go. But, you know, I think that generational wealth comes when we're truly investing in our family and making sure people have the knowledge that they should have.
Family, love, loyalty for sure. And I guess that's all in one thing, really, realistically. But so really, it would be loyalty, really, because not even family, it's loyalty. Like if you're not loyal to me, then if we can't be loyal and we can't be genuine with each other, then it's what is it really? You know what I mean? Even with me saying family, it's some family that aren't loyal. You know what I mean? So that's why I had to kind of retract on that, and it's loyalty. Because if I really love you, I'm loyal to you. Period. So the loyalty comes, I would say, before the love. You know what I mean? Like, because if I can start trusting you and I know you're loyal to me, then that's how I build that love instead of building up that wall. You know? So I think loyalty is important, you know, and then it follows up with the love. And then, of course, family. That's very important to me.
Freedom. Freedom gives me a lot of joy.
Do you feel free?
A lot of times, no. And the reason for that is still working for the man, you know? And the goal is to eventually not to work for the man. I'm still checking in and checking out. And to me, I feel just constricted. And it's kind of like on my days off, I feel like the world is mine. The world's my oyster. I get to work on the other things I want to work on. Do the other things that I want to do. You know, I get to explore the different topics that I want to explore, and not have to do something.
I do. I do. I feel like I feel free and I feel blessed to be able to come to, even though like my job doesn't pay the most, you know, like I think about that all the time, but I definitely feel honored and blessed and kind of privileged to be able to go to work and look forward to multiple aspects of what I do. You know, like I don't dread really going to work. I think that's a blessing and a privilege. I think that I feel free at work. I got interviewed. It was about 100 students. I got interviewed, and they picked one guy and one lady to go on a scholarship fund trip, all stuff paid for, just fly you to New York, and they picked me, you know, and I was in college. I had braids, and you know, I had braids, and my mom was never a fan of braids. She let me grow my hair out like my senior year, but like she was never a fan of it. But I had hair for 4 or 5 years, so they picked me, and lady, I never forget, the lady was like, "We picked you. We're excited about you. One condition: you cannot go unless you cut your hair off." And she was like, "Yeah, you have to cut your hair." And then that was the first time to where I felt like, man, now my hair and the perception of what braids, I guess, in a black man and what that looks like, even from other black people, it's a problem, because I was at an HBCU, and that was like a black college like scholarship fund, you know. So it wasn't even like someone else was telling me, you know, you had to cut your hair. It was just like, you know, braids on a young black man was not acceptable, you know, if you are an educated black man.
No. I'm free in the sense that I can get up off this couch and walk out of my front door. I've been telling my grandmother ever since my daughter, who just turned 3, ever since my daughter was born, I want to bring her out to you in Mississippi. I don't have the money like that. If I were truly free, I'd just get up and go. We'd make that happen. But I feel like I'm always one bad day away from never seeing the light of the day again. I know people who feel so hopeless. The only thing that makes sense is let me take myself off of this planet. I've been there. I know how that feels. And I can't call that free.
Free? Nah, it's free would be like coming to America. He's free. Me, nah. I gotta work hard. I gotta, every step has to be calculated to make sure you make it home. Then you gotta watch out for the what ifs and the maybes, and different things like that. It's a lot of days people say tomorrow's not promised. Here in San Bernardino, that's really true. Yeah. Really true. It's almost like a dream to be completely free. But I think when I feel free the most is probably when I was at school, going for that AA or going for that certification and reading and studying. And I remember I used to have to pay a couple $100 or $100 and some dollars to take a test. And I was so happy to be able to do that because I knew I was going to pass. I think that probably would have been a sense of freedom because I studied, hard. I got the stuff to study. I studied them. They quizzed us on what we got, and knowing I knew what was on the test, or knowing I knew that I was gonna probably pretty much pass, if I put my two feet down and went for that and worked for it, I feel free when I did something like that.
I feel free. I feel that there's definitely opportunity that is out there for one to pursue. So in that aspect, I will say free. That I feel free. I think if you look at it from and that's why I asked, how are you defining freedom? Because, and this is one of the things that kind of earlier we were talking about, this concept of coloring outside the lines to get what you want. And one of the things that I will tell people, so I will say, yes, I'm free because I can color outside the lines.
Being free is just everything I said is being free. Plus, what else could it be? I don't know. I just feel like doing what you want, not being stressed. I'm a stress-free guy. I don't let things get me. You know what I'm saying? Drama-free. Everything is free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not financially where I want to be, but I'm still free. You know what I'm saying? And I'm blessed to say that. Of course, I'm not, either living check to check or sick or trying to do, you know what I'm saying? So that in itself is free. Like, you know what I'm saying? I wake up every day alive, breathing, not in the hospital.
Yeah.
Being able to do what I love every single day makes me free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you so much. And now I'll pass it over to Frito to lead our roundtable.
Thank you very much, Natalie. I just want to say thank you to you and Kia for putting on a great documentary that I can't wait to see, or just showing us snippets of it, inviting us to really share our thoughts, asking us questions just to understand who we are a little bit more, appreciate that. And I want to say thank you to also all the participants, Nate, Eric, and Jamel, and Ricardo, and Muda. Really thank you to all of you for really just taking time out to share your thoughts. I appreciate that. I know that when I was starting to watch the video, I was like, man, it's been 3 years since I last even remember my answers or anything like that. So I was like, am I really going to remember what's going on? But when I did start to watch it, some of the things that we spoke about Natalie and Kia and I, and some of the questions that they did ask me started to pop up in my head. And I'm very curious, and I want to open it up to you all. What was your initial response when you reheard your responses from that video? Jamel, it seemed like you got a little smirk on your face right there.
Yes, I will definitely say, I was like, I need to make sure I provide some context to my comment on coloring outside the lines. Because I think some people will hear that and say, oh, what does he mean by that? Many times, some people have negative connotations to that concept of coloring outside the lines. But what I really was trying to articulate is that as African American males, we are free not to accept and follow rules and paradigms and stereotypes that are placed upon us. And when we empower ourselves to understand that, no, I don't have to accept what you're telling me is, my plight in life, then you have the ability to color outside the lines and create your own reality. So when I first heard that, I was like, oh man, I need to make sure there's some context to that.
Thank you very much, Jamel. I appreciate that. And we're going to open it up to others. Nate, I'm curious about your thoughts, man. Like, what was your initial response to hearing it again?
Well, I definitely, if in all honesty, I forgot what I said. So when they emailed us the questions, I'm like, man, what did I say? I kind of but seeing it, man, it was so cool. It almost was surreal to hear my answer, because I will say that I definitely feel the same way. But just my reaction to hearing it was like, man, it's crazy, and some of the panelists have, it's been like yourself, it's been a while, what I mean? It's been 3 years. For me, it hasn't been that long, maybe a year, maybe a little under a year. So, a lot of things are different, but a lot of things are the same, so my reaction was, wow, what I mean? Really, that was my main reaction, wow.
Thank you very much for sharing. And we have Eric. Please do tell. Please do share.
Yeah, it's like everyone said, it's been a minute, but I'm gonna kind of build on what I build, but expand on what Jamel said. What I said, what was this guy talking? So I say believe like it was just a corner of a larger conversation. I've had similar conversations over the last few years, speaking about my own thoughts and beliefs and certain things and what I hold in value. And those tend to be long conversations, can't really be captured in just in just a short period of time. So I kind of was looking at it like the same way I imagine people have been looking at me when I've been talking until we were able to flesh out, the full thought. But yeah, it's almost surreal to hear you. And the other thing that kind of stood out from me is that was so long ago. It was just a year or so. A lot has happened this year. And for me, I'm in a much better place. So I hear a lot of pain in what I was speaking about. Like I said, I still hold the same beliefs, but the pain comes through. And I don't know if I were asked today, the fact that I'm spending so much time with my daughter now and I wasn't before, I might speak on some other things, but for one thing, truth, the lack of truth has played such a prominent role in the last few years of my life, and it's affected my life in a few different areas. So that was really weighing heavily on me, but I've been taking some steps towards rectifying some things. So now I can focus on things that might be more important right now.
Muda, you brought a lot of energy during your interview, and as a DJ, I can definitely see you can definitely get the party started.
Yeah.
So, share some of your thoughts, like rehearing what you had to say.
I mean, I definitely want to say what's up to everybody. How y'all doing? And I kind of want to piggyback a little bit off kind of like what Nate said. And I don't really remember. I didn't remember. It was a while ago. I think it was about a year ago when my interview was, maybe a little over a year ago, whatever. But I think when I'm hearing it, I'm like, damn, I feel that way even more. I still stand on it, especially with what's happened since then. You feel me? I mean, obviously we know we went through the COVID situation, the George Floyd, the looting, the riot, and all that. So I really stand on being free is literally waking up every single day, being able to kiss your daughter, being able to go to work, being able to not be in the hospital, being able to provide. You know what I'm saying? Especially as the world is changing right in front of our eyes and things are getting worse and things are getting harder and challenging. I feel like to be free is to just be able to wither through this world stress and drama free because there's so much of it around us. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely feel what I said then is still relevant, if not then even more now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's how I feel.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Ricardo, do you have anything to say? What was your initial response?
When I listened to the insert, I actually listened to it a couple times, not only to hear what I had to say, but I wanted to hear what the next person had to say. And what kind of stood out to me a lot was when the guy said, "Define your definition of freedom." Now, if you step back and you think about freedom, it's like, wow, you actually want me to define it. And I mean, because for us as being kind of held back in a way, or like you said, stereotyped, and a lot of different things that we have to deal with. For a person to define their view of freedom, it's going to relate to who they are as an American or who they are as a, individual. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's why I really appreciate Kia and Miss Graham for opening up these doors for us to even, talk about this type of stuff. And then for a lot of this program, what I want to get out of it is I want to get out, you know, I want to be able to speak to the next intelligent person to show me the next, avenue to what I can, someone else where I can go and learn more about things that are going to promote us and going forward. And, even our history, maybe even something where, hey, this is something you can bring up to your children to listen to or learn from. I really want this flat platform to springboard the African American, as you know what I mean, to promote us to go for the next step in life or the next avenue that we can really reach and and just to really pay attention to, you know what I mean?
Thank you for that. I know for me, my initial response to my answers was that I feel at peace with my answers. I definitely want to, I definitely feel like they've expanded some because not only is it my wife, but I do have a child now. And so that has kind of like, she has come into the value portion of things as well. Um, I really admired the different perspectives of freedom that we all had. I appreciate that. And so that kind of leads me to the second question. When you did hear our voices as a collective, what is your response to that? Muda, I'll let you go ahead and answer that question.
Well, I think the first thought I heard when I heard everybody, I thought like, damn, everybody lives so differently. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's perspective, everybody's outtake and outlook on things are so different. You know what I mean? And especially with us all being Black men. You know what I'm saying? So it's like being that we are all Black men and we all going through different things.
we hear the different thing, you know what I'm saying? Just like when Ricardo and I believe Eric or who, I don't know who asked what the definition or define freedom or whatever, but you know, it's all about perspective and how you look at it, you know what I mean? And that's when I'm hearing all these voices and I'm seeing all these different faces. It's like, damn, we all go through almost the same thing, but it's so different, you know, it's so different in the dynamics and how, you know, how we look at just period, everything, you know what I mean? So that's how I took it. And that's how I look at everything when I meet people, when I talk to people. It's like, I want to kind of hear your story because everybody's story is different, you know what I'm saying? And when I heard all these voices, I heard everybody's story, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I took it.
Thank you, Muda. I appreciate your carefreeness. I feel like it just really echoed throughout the whole video, at least the portion that I saw. And so I know for me, that was that. I want to hear, Eric, when you hear everybody else, what comes to your mind?
So there was a part of me that felt like, wow, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about being in a place where I'd like to be myself. And in a way, it was pretty encouraging, especially when I heard someone say, yeah, I do feel free. I may not be, you know, financially, I think Muda said, I may not be financially exactly where I want to be, but I do feel free. And I think I heard someone else say that. And what that makes me ask myself is, how can I shift my own perspective to see where the freedom is in my life, as opposed to looking at everything that's lacking, everything that's missing and saying, no, that's not freedom. Part of what my response was about mental health and about financial obligations. But it's really easy to get stuck in your own situation and your own circumstances and only see the invisible walls around yourself. When you hear other people speak about something you may not have considered, that there's a hope in that. And so hearing some of these brothers speak about things from a perspective I had not considered, it encouraged me to try and start looking at things differently and seeing possibilities.
Eric, I really want to echo those same sentiments because when I was hearing Nate speak, there was a lot of admiration from me. And I say that because he felt free. He just felt free about life just because he was just able just to wake up alive. And I admire that because, like, I know I would love to be there. I just know I'm not there. But I admired him for having that heart because it really resonated with me. And I think that also resonated with you as well. You know? Janelle, you came from a different perspective that I also appreciated. And before I go into what I appreciate about you, what were your sentiments about hearing everybody else's response?
I agree with what others have said about understanding that there's a diversity of perspectives. I think kind of reflecting on, I know we just came out of a very contentious election, and I know what we saw truly was the empowerment of the African American vote. And I think what people are starting to see is that monolithic viewpoint or dog whistles to attract the African American male or female is not going to work. And I think with education and empowerment, many of us are starting to see, you know, the glass does not always have empty. It can be half full, it can be completely full. And I think with our experience, you know, we're starting to see we do not have to play the victim. It's now time for us to take a leadership role and say, you know what, it's time that we replace people. If you are not being good about our community, we're going to do all we can to make sure that we vote you out of office. So I think with this variety of perspectives and the diversity of perspectives, I think what we're seeing is that all of us have a voice that needs to be articulated and shared. And I think this is what this I2 documentary is going to bring to the forefront.
Nice. Ricardo, you seem to get very excited when Jamel was sharing his thoughts. What was coming to your mind when he was speaking?
Well, he said, you know, we have these invisible walls around us, but then there's a way that you can have freedom if, I want to say, educate yourself. I think, well, for me, because I love that, like I said in my answer, when I was able to, study hard and then I was able to take the test and pass it, that was a type of freedom. I want to surround myself around more educated people. And that's why I listen to the answers so many times, because I mean, the answers from a more educated person actually opens your eyes and says, hey, like you said, my situation may not be that bad if I can maneuver this type of way, or you know what I'm saying? So it's just, man, I'm hungry for more brothers to speak so I can learn more. And actually my next steps in life they have to be different so I can be more comfortable with who I am. So I definitely see a lot of education, or definitely see school in my near future, because that's where I feel most free. So that's what I need, and that's where I need to be at. I need to be in a free position, or I want to be more free. So that I need to do what I enjoy doing to feel free. So
thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for sure.
Appreciate that response. Nate, what are your thoughts?
Man, I really, and shout out to Kia, shout out to Natalie. I think a lot of it has to do with like the way they put it together. Because I think it complemented like the person that went before me. You know what I'm saying? Complimented, what I said. The person that went after, like I complimented what they like. It was cool. You know what I mean? So I think we definitely have to give them a little bit of credit for that. To be able to kind of help with that. But really, how I felt about hearing everybody else, it just reminded me of so many things. And I think that things have definitely changed, with everything that's gone on in this country since that video, since the interview. But it just kind of reminded me, man. I'm from San Bernardino, and just growing up in San Bernardino, I always felt like a strong sense of hopelessness, just in the city, if I'm keeping it real. And so when I went away for school to a Black college, just give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. Like, me growing up, if there was a large crowd of people, specifically Black people, in a certain area, you always kind of have to kind of be on your P's and Q's. You don't know when something's gonna pop off. You know what I mean? So when I went to a Black college, my first day there, everybody was just chilling. Like hundreds of people were just chilling outside, and me just being from San Marino, being from hopelessness, I kind of had that defense. You know what I mean? I kind of had that defense of something. These people cannot just be outside just hanging out. Like something is gonna happen. Somebody's about to get in a fight. Something's gonna happen. But nothing happened. You know what I mean? And so, it spoke to me, what you said about that, because obviously, I definitely hope things, can be better in my life, and I have to work on things and things like that. But I try to keep that joy, because when I got out of that sense of hopelessness, when I surrounded myself with other people from various different backgrounds, what I'm saying, from all over the country, from even other countries, you know what I mean? From, I got to see like, dang, life isn't really hopeless. You know what I mean? But my mindset growing up was, that's what was fed to me. That's what I seen in the music I listened to. That's what I seen from where I was from, So I think that just reminded me, like, when we get together, in a certain perspective, sometimes our mind shifts. So when I heard the person after me give their perspective on if they feel free, I was like, wow, dang, that's true. You know what I'm saying? When I heard the person before me, I was like, dang, that's true. Like things came out of me that I would have never would have imagined coming out of my mind just from hearing another man talk about how he feels. You know what I mean?
Wow. I will definitely say this: in hearing the whole video, there was a subtle rawness to it, and there was a warmness to it as well. And just like you said, Nate, I don't know if I knew Natalie beforehand, and I don't know if that relationship impacted just the vibe of it. And I don't know if those two knew you all as well, which may have allowed those walls to be broken where you felt more free to share. Whatever it was, it's true. Like, I just felt just a calmness throughout the whole video. And I don't know if that's really shared a lot, a calmness, a stillness, a warmness about Black men, you know? So I appreciate the different points of freedom that can be had. Because I know at different points in my life, I can feel those different aspects of freedom. Whether it's switching my mental from a depression mode into like, I'm living and breathing, to whether it is a empowering myself to be entrepreneurial, it can switch. So it's kind of like the different perspectives and the different points of freedom, there can be different points possibly, And so I appreciate all you for sharing that. And so that leads me into my third question. And hearing your responses, do they still hold true today? So I'll start with Nate. Go ahead. I saw you smiling,
Yeah.
I thought you had the answer already,
I figured, I'm ready. I low-key thought about this. Man, that's so crazy because I talked about my job. And so I'm just gonna keep it G. Like just talking about the pandemic. I'm not even gonna get into the George Floyd yet, but just talking about the pandemic, it kind of allowed me to kind of just slow down. Spend more, I have a 2-year-old daughter, spend more time with my wife, my daughter. And, so I definitely I'm grateful. I still feel the same way about, being grateful about doing a job that I love, that I'm passionate about. But I don't feel the same way about, I don't hold my job to the same degree. The pandemic has kind of, made me kind of open my eyes to what the job really is, no matter how much I love it. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I just feel like growing up, like college was pushed on me, even though I shouldn't even made it to college. But college, school, everything is pushed on me. And then, I got a full-time job, I have benefits, so it's like, that's what was shoved down my throat, what I'm saying, since I can remember, And so now that I'm here and the pandemic happens, it's like, man, I do love that. But is that it? Like I really enjoy spending time with my daughter, I really enjoy spending time with my wife, it's things that I know I need to work on. So I definitely don't feel the same as far as how much weight I give my job. And I think that's just due to the pandemic. And it's also due to like just, me just putting things in retrospective as far as like, how I feel like my job feels about me, as a Black man, and just keeping it real, so definitely don't feel the same way as I probably did in that video.
A lot can happen in 1 year, eh?
Yep.
Oh, Muda, does it still hold true for you?
And when we say hold true, are we talking about the freedom portion of this, or what are we kind of pinpointing on?
I think the two questions, what you value the most, and the definition of freedom to you. I think those two questions in the snippet video that we were shown.
Okay. I think, yeah, definitely. I still stand on definitely what I said then, if not more now. Like I said, even with the COVID stuff going on and the pandemic and the rioting and the looting, because I don't know, I just feel like I'm in a different position than a lot of people. For a lot of people who don't know, when the looting and stuff was happening out here, I had a Feed the Dino event twice. You know, we fed over 5,000 people, and I led that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I don't just say it, I do it. You know what I'm saying? So I really still stand on it because I really want to see the Black man flourish. I want to see us being able to wake up feeling free. You know what I'm saying? I want us to be able to wake up and say, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have a good job or whatever you do to make money, and I'm free. You know what I'm saying? And I try to give that when I talk to people every single day, when I travel, when I go out of the country, when I go to Africa, when I go to back to my HBCU, because like Nate, I was able to go to a HBCU too. And just like you said, I want to piggyback off that just a little bit. I remember that first day when I was on a yard too, and I'm just like, oh, this is what Black people do. Okay, cool, because where I'm from, Black people don't do this. You know what I'm saying? And I use that, and I soak all of the 5 years of being at the HBCU, being able to go to Nigeria and come back and seeing them, and then come back to the Dino and seeing like, okay, this is a perspective that a lot of people will never ever see, and I'm blessed to see it, and these eyes were able to see it. So I want to try to do my best to give people that their freedom, I guess I would say. You know what I'm saying? Or at least they're because a lot of people would say, like Muda, we want to do a lot for the Dino too, but because you led it, it was helping us able to do it. You know what I'm saying? So if even if I gotta bring the people together like Natalie and Kia did and brought us together, if I have to do that, you know what I'm saying? And that's super dope what they did, because I don't know Natalie at all, and Kia, we have a slight decent relationship, you know what I'm saying? But it was cool for them to come together and get people from different backgrounds, you know, still Black men, to come and sit there together and do this, and this is dope. But like I said, about answer your question again, yes, I do stand on exactly what I said. And again, now I think I am being more of action than last year. Last year I was just saying what I need to do, how I feel. I think I used this year to really put it into action. And it was a great year. Thus, everything was crazy. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, you know, went through a lot of bad things, but it was a great year for me, and I was able to do a lot of things for people too. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Eric, does the concept of truth still hold true for you today?
Not at all. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I know it seemed like I took a big, I took what should have been a simple question and blew it up kind of all out of proportion, maybe. But it seemed, yes, family is absolutely something I value. My friendships, relationships, honor, integrity. But it felt like as I was thinking through these things, there was something bigger. Okay, so why do I value family? Because people I trust and people I'm close to as blood, you know what I mean? And then, well, why do I value integrity? Brother talked about valuing loyalty. And there was just something bigger. And I thought, you know, it's the idea that if someone's loyal to me, or if I'm being loyal to someone, we are honest with each other. There's truth, you know what I mean? And it just came down to the umbrella concept for me being, I have the utmost respect for the truth. And I try and be as honest as I possibly can. That hasn't changed for me. Truth is still the biggest thing in my life. That's not, and I don't want to sound hypocritical, because no, I don't always speak the honest truth. Sometimes things just have to stay inside. You know, we don't need to cross certain lines, just say everything that comes to our mind. But if I'm going to speak on something, I'm going to speak from the perspective of truth. And it frustrates me when I come into contact with people who are able, I don't know how to do this, able to start from, oh no, this is not what happened. This over here is what happened. And I'm like, you know, I was there too, right? So if we can't begin from a point of speaking on truth, we can't have a conversation. We can't get anything done if we can't start from the truth, you know? So believing on the concept of truth has to do with so many things for me. And probably the most important thing is, how do you build something with anyone else? You have to start from, this is what the issue is. This is what is needed. This is what I can bring to the table. What can you bring to the table? Let's be honest about who we are, where we are, what we need, and then we can move forward from that point. That's all about honoring the truth for me. As far as the other question about freedom, I'll say I still don't feel free, but I recognize that when there are no bars, when there are no shackles and chains, freedom becomes about your perception. So if I don't feel free, I have to figure out how to change my perception and actually walk in speaking my freedom, maybe before I actually feel that freedom. So while I don't feel free, I'm trying to learn how to get there.
I appreciate that perspective, and thank you. Jamel, please share your thoughts.
Well, I think listening to the value question, I talked about what was really important in terms of being family and education. I truly do feel that education is a gateway to opportunity. I also think that education, Eric and others have talked about truth. I feel once you really begin to read, you open your mind and you can truly see what's going on. It's interesting that when you read books such as 48 Laws of Power, such as Machiavelli's The Prince, Sun Tzu's The Art of War, you can really see how society is shaped to try to get various outcomes from people. And I think that really helps you to guard your emotions, your mental capacity to truly not allow people to incite you. Because many times when you're making an emotional decision or reaction, you have been entrapped and played with where people wanted you to go. So I still today value family and education, and I do think it opens a lot of doors for individuals. When it comes to the question of freedom, I still feel free. I think it's really a mindset going back to how my parents reared me to really take on the idea that you can be a victor, you're more than a conqueror. I grew up in the church, and scriptures were poured in to me to kind of see that there is opportunity out there if we're willing to apply ourselves. And yes, I know there are times where you can feel that the deck is stacked against you, that the odds of you winning is 0 to none. But I look back and thinking as a Laker fan, I believe it was 2004 when they were down to the San Antonio Spurs with zero point 0.4 left, and Derek Fisher hit a game-winning shot with such little time there. And I feel if we apply that to our life, it does not matter what it looks like or what people may have told you is possible. I think it behooves us that men and women of color, especially young men and women of color, know that no, you can do something, you can achieve something. There's definitely opportunities out there for us. And if we look, not 45, but 44 was an African American male. We have a vice president elect who's a African American female. So there's tons of opportunity for us if we embrace that victor mindset or that conqueror mindset.
Thank you, Jamel. And lastly, Ricardo, do you have any words? And you're on mute, Ricardo, just to let you know.
I said, yeah, I'm sorry that I'm a kind of a history bluff, and I like to reiterate some of our history, our past ancestors, or because I remember Frederick Douglass. He was born a slave. He educated himself enough to become a free man. So if you think about that, That's the definition right there of freedom. And I wanted to actually answer your question. Now, you said, what do we value most? Is it freedom or is it family? Because if you're not free, you can't be around your family. You know what I mean? So let's open that aspect as well. And is it still true? Yes, we do value our families, and yes, we do value our freedoms. And you got to think about it. We are American. So let's let's jump on that, and our our aspects of freedom has to be education. It has to be knocking down those barriers that we set for ourselves. We've seen it plenty of times. Freedom is in our mind. And a lot of people don't even realize that how much truth is in that. And again, thank you guys again for letting me, speak on it. And like I said, Frederick Douglass was a slave and he educated himself and became a free man, if I'm correct. So, but yeah, thank you again, man.
I have another question for you all. After you went through the whole process of being asked the questions and finishing that out, how did you feel after going through that whole interview process?
If I could jump in on that, I felt good. And I know, I think it was earlier this year after a lot of the, George Floyd video and the social unrest that was happening, I reached out to Kia and I'm like, people need to be hearing what you guys have been working on, because this is essentially what we were advocating, talking about what does it mean to be an African American male in America. And definitely knowing that for some have been at this for 3 years, I do know getting a film to market takes time, but I think the perspective of what we have been going through truly does need to be articulated and heard by the masses.
Gotcha. Thank you. Ricardo, how'd you feel? Just having all these questions asked of you and giving your responses and stuff like that. How'd you feel afterwards?
Honestly, I felt like I wanted to do it some more. And like I said, I just like I want to educate myself more so I can have a better answer next time. For instance, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I just appreciate, someone, asking me a question and recording it and actually being able to put it out there and, have the world to hear it is amazing for me too. But like I said, I want to educate myself more to be on the next panel if it's so.
Muda, what are your thoughts, man? Like, I want to get your feelings.
I felt good. I felt really good. I mean, after obviously they asked me the questions and they kind of broke it down to me really in depthly, what the goal of the documentary and what they were trying to do. I thought it was super dope, because they get in aspects of different people, black men, and different type of black men. You know what I'm saying? Because of course, me and Eric are two totally different type of people. Me and Jamel or me and Nate, we're totally different. And when other black men or other black people, period, African Americans start watching this documentary, they can kind of see themselves because they're going to see different people. You know what I'm saying? So I felt that it was a good opportunity for black men because we don't have these opportunities. Again, I'm in the entertainment world. I do a lot of big things, and people, when they do want to interview me, they're not asking me these questions. They're asking me, oh, I was the road. What music we playing? Who smoke? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So it was good to finally, get people who really want to know in depthly about, the African American, how we think, how we feel, you know what I'm saying? Outside of, what video we seen or who got the biggest booty, you know what I'm saying? So I thought it was super dope. And I think it was definitely for the culture. And especially now that all this has happened, I think this is the greatest time for it to drop, or, hopefully it can. Because now everybody's eyes are open and like Jamel said, everything we spoke on literally kind of like is literally relevant now, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy that that's even happening. But like I said, I felt great. I felt that it was a great opportunity for myself and other people on here, and for the people who are going to be watching. I think it's going to be dope, and they're going to be a lot people educated because of this. So for sure.
Thank you. I know for me, going through those questions, it was almost like a form of therapy, to be honest with you. I say that because in trying to accomplish so much in life and having so many responsibilities, I don't think a lot of times I just take a step back and reflect on things. And those questions made me pause and to reflect on my life. And so for that, it was just kind of like, how do I really feel about this? Oh, I really do feel this way about my wife and now my child. Freedom. Oh my gosh. When do I really feel free in life? And so it just made me pause, kind of meditate in a sense, and really be true to myself. So I know I'm grateful for that moment because of that, for that whole interview process, because it it was just good mental health for me at the time. Let's just say that. And I'll turn it to Eric. What was your feelings after going through the whole interview?
Man, I think you keyed in on a very specific word. I felt grateful. I remember feeling almost full. Just the idea that someone cared enough about Black men to create a space for us to kind of delve into what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what life is like. Give us space to use our voice and be vulnerable. At the same time, I became very aware. I know that for my personal growth and development, one of the things I've been aware of is kind of measuring myself against other Black men. So when I am answering the questions, I'm trying to be as genuine as I possibly can, but there's a part of me that's also wondering, how are the other men answering this? So it reminded me that I still have work to do just in terms of, well, at the time, I don't know how much I do. I think I'm doing pretty good right now because I'm not comparing myself to the other gentlemen in the room, so there's growth there. But in that moment, in the original interview, I did have to face myself head on. And I remember asking, can I see those questions? Because I wish I had recorded it just to see what was I talking about. And what do I need to learn from this situation, from this interview? What can I take away and be better for? But the most important thing I took away was gratitude for someone just taking the time. And I appreciate KayJo, Kia, and I appreciate you both for even setting up this space for us. Professor.
And Nate, we'll end off with you.
Yeah, I just to piggyback up, I definitely felt a sense of therapy. I think, we allow too much time to go by without really talking about stuff that matters. If I'm just keeping it real, like we talk about the struggle, we talk about, the ups and the downs, the good things, the bad things, everything in between. But like we don't really talk about like, how do you feel free? You know what I mean? Like, and so it felt like a therapy. Like it felt like, it was a long overdue conversation. You know what I mean? And I would have never had it with myself. My wife gets on me all the time. You know what I mean? I think that's something that like as Black men, if I can be, general, everybody's different, but as Black men, I think we're kind of, taught in one way or another. It's not cool, or it's not, it's just not the thing to do to kind of like talk about the stuff that actually matters. You know what I mean? And so it doesn't happen often for whatever reason. Everybody's a little different. It doesn't happen. So for me, I felt that. And then looking back on it later, like looking back on it now, I definitely felt it still kind of ministered to me. It still kind of blessed me, you know what I mean? Because like I'm in some ways I'm in a different situation, but it's still, I was like, dang, you know what I mean? Like I didn't think about that. And then hearing, you know, everybody else, hearing my brothers, it's like, dang, you know, I never thought about that either. So it, you know, it ministered to me right after the conversation was done, you know, in that day. And it's still like speaking to me. So that's why I think this whole thing is pretty powerful, because it kind of is like, you know, it never gets old. You know, it's always something that, you know, the Black community and Black men in specific can use, and then everybody else just seeing us in a different light, you know. So it definitely, you know, I still feel the same way. I still have new, you know, I'm developing new feelings as I'm hearing myself and the other gentlemen talk about their life and how they feel about it.
Got you. Thank you. Natalie, how are we on time? You tell me, Natalie.
You can ask one more if you have one.
Okay. Sure. Just one more question. I know I said that I had to take a step back and really see, like, man, and really reflect on these questions. I know for me, I don't get many opportunities to answer questions like these, or am I even asked? Like, does opportunities like these for you happen a lot? I'm just curious to know, for you to share your thoughts freely.
I guess I could go first. I actually do. I get a lot of interviews. I get a lot of questions asked, especially since I started doing my nonprofit work. Not even way before that. So I was kind of used to it, but I was happy that, you know what I'm saying, these questions were going to be asked to other people that aren't that don't have a platform like I do. You know what I'm saying? Just regular people who aren't, you know, in the entertainment world or aren't in the public speaking world. You know, so people can get the insight of just the regular Black African American man or somebody who is in that limelight. You know, but I have got these questions asked, or just questions period, and I felt really comfortable. I didn't feel any uncomfortability or anything like that.
Cool. Nate, do you get many opportunities to just share your thoughts freely like this?
No, and you know, I work. You know, now said a brief thing. I'm a college swim coach, so you know, I work around people that predominantly don't look like me. You know, so and I think that I think some people are sincere and they're curious about me and they're curious about Black men, Black culture, but I never really have anybody until recently. I've had a few like colleagues, like other swim coaches from other schools, kind of just like DM me, you know, after the whole George Floyd thing, like DM me and like ask me some general questions and like really trying to get to know, you know, me and get to know the situation. But really, I just feel like, you know, people don't really ask those things. And I think through the hustle and bustle of life, since people don't really ask whether they're Black or not, whether they're part of the community or not, you know, people just don't. So for me, it was like, that's what I think was so therapeutic about it was, you know, outside of my wife, I don't really, you know, have those conversations with people, you know what I mean? So, you know, I could be, I'm kind of long-winded. So like, I don't mind talking, you know, like that's why I enjoy, you know, places like the barbershop, you know, going to the barbershop. That's like a place, you know, as far as Black men are concerned, we can come in and just talk about stuff. You know, sometimes it's about ignorance, but sometimes, you know, depending on which barbershop you go to, like you can have a conversation. And it's the one place I feel like from a cultural standpoint and Black culture, as far as Black men, to where we can sit and talk, you know, about stuff that matters, you know. But outside of that and my wife, you know, I just don't get asked those questions, just really.
Cool. Would anyone else like to share?
I would say for me, as someone that works in higher education and also a person who's in leadership in the church, definitely I tend to dialogue on these topics quite often.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jamal.
Yeah, you were saying something?
Yes. Oh, yes, sir. I just kind of wanted to iterate on one thing. I like to talk to people because, especially like the other races, I like to talk to them and let them know if I can, or if I like to educate them about who I am as an individual, because they can look at me one way, and after I sit there and talk with them about whatever the topic may be, I try to give them the most educated answer that I can come up with to show them that the African American male, or this African American male that they just got done talking to, hey, he isn't ignorant, or hey, he isn't a gangster, or hey, he isn't, X, Y, and Z, because I like them to, I like to give answers that are well-rounded, because I mean, I came from a diverse background. I had a lot of Caucasian friends, Hispanic friends, and you know what I mean? So with that being said, I just actually like to speak on things so that they can understand that we aren't as closed-minded and like the stereotypic that they have originally. I like to change that, because I mean, if given an opportunity, I believe that all African American males can, step outside the box and color outside the lines. Because I mean, we've been deprived so much. It's like, give us a shot. Maybe you won't hate us as much. Excuse me, because I said hate. I feel that maybe they might hate, but you know what I'm saying? So yeah, just not to be long-winded, I want to say we are educated. Like I said, Nathan, dude, you're young and you got so many different degrees and stuff. It's like all these people on these panels, and I have education as well, but I want to be educate myself more so I can be more like you guys, I guess I want to say. And thank you guys.
Thank you, Ricardo. Appreciate you sharing. And Eric, your thoughts.
So I'm using the dramatic pause so that it doesn't belay that I forgot the question. Refresh me, please, sir.
Do you have many opportunities in your life where you're asked these questions?
Yeah, and I was sitting here thinking about my answer, but I'm old enough to where the question slipped anyway. It's not so much that I answer these types of questions specifically directed at me being a Black man, but I am part of an artistic community, and I have people close to me who tend to check in on you questions. So I have those types of conversations enough to where I do feel cared for, I do feel valued, and the other part of this is I've recently, the last week, I've had a person of Caucasian background asking questions about things they don't understand. So on the one hand, with my community checking in, just asking, I'm going to respond, of course, from a Black man perspective, because that's what I am. I can't do anything else. And then answering specific questions about, well, why is Black Lives Matter, or any of this? And I can have an open dialogue and speak on the greater issues, but also my personal perspective and my personal issues and how these matters affect me and why they are relevant. So while I wouldn't say I have a lot of conversations like this, I am grateful that there are people who care enough to listen.
And thank you, Eric. I want to thank all the men here on this panel for sharing your thoughts. We greatly appreciate it. Just like you shared your thoughts on the documentary, you shared your thoughts on this panel. Thank you so much for answering the questions. Thank you for showing a diverse collection of thoughts amongst Black men, you know, and we greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'll turn it over back to Natalie.
So we have a couple more questions, actually. First of all, thank you. I'm like over here like, wow, I'm so proud of this group. I think that if you know me, you know I love people, and to hear your responses, you know, the first time, but then again and again, and to see your pictures and just really the culmination of you guys being able to come together has always been a part of the original dream for Natalie and I, to really make connection and community. Coast to coast, Florida to California, you know, who would have really thought? And to be able to hear the word therapy again and again is not, I don't think we expected that ever. And there is a sense of urgency, right, to kind of get the narrative out and shaped in such a way. But that's the thing, we really wanted to let you guys answer freely and openly, and just to have the space to just have that time. You know, I was thinking earlier today, there may not be this deliverable right now, a 90 or 120 minute deliverable as a documentary, but I think, man, how precious is it to still have this collection? If we could release each one individually, you know, we would. It's so powerful, and it never loses that value. But a couple more questions. You know, I'm long-winded too. We're in a very different time from when we first started. Like we said, 2018. Nobody saw 2020 coming in this capacity, and so not the last question, but second to last question. What did you believe before this time, but you know now to be absolutely true? Or what has this time really tested or surprised you the most about this year? Or just this time as a nation? And that's open to the floor. Any of you? I'm not gonna go on.
I was gonna say, really, and this is kind of what kind of drew me to pursue leaving, you know, San Bernardino and going to Louisiana to a Black college, and being surrounded by others that look like me. And at the time, I thought would have had similar experiences, but it was such a diverse group of students at the university, and I didn't know anything about that. I just knew San Bernardino. But this time, 2020 has kind of allowed me to really see, I have like a fire and a passion for really just my people and uplifting my people. You know what I mean? And I've always had that. It's always been there. I guess the people in my community and my network of people, friends, family, you know, can say that and experience that. But I think 2020 has like allowed me to kind of, I guess, a new fire to kind of burn and want to do more. And it's allowed me to slow down with the pandemic to be able to have my mind move a little bit and not just be about work, come home, family, and then wake up and do the same thing again, you know? So the thing that's true to me, that's always been true, and is even more true now, is my value to lift my people up, so to speak. Specifically directly influencing, like, you know, the city where I'm from, and, you know, and my family and people who are still, how I feel, like still in the trenches, you know, so to speak. So that's, you know, that's my answer.
Thank you, Nate. Anybody else?
I think for me, it's the value of the strength of family. I think going through 2020, if my family was not around me and close to me, it may have been difficult. But, you know, having the family together allows me to understand that together we'll get through this.
All right, thank you.
Just kind of touching on what Jamel just said, I believe we've found a need for interconnectivity. I think when it didn't surprise me, I already knew how important it is to build communities. How I tend toward introverted with hints of extrovert, but I'm really comfortable being at home. So the idea of a pandemic where nobody leaves, fine, I'm good. But there comes a point where you realize I need people. So I knew that it was necessary to connect with people before 2020, but 2020 has exposed just how necessary it is to find ways to connect. Doing things like this, you know what I mean? Let's check in with each other. Let's find out how other people are doing. Let's do Zoom parties or, you know, just anything, just so we can still acknowledge we are not alone.
I think for me personally, 2020, I would say I think I found like my passion or kind of what I was here for, because I felt like my leadership role kind of like was on steroids like this year, you know what I mean? While everybody was, you know, sitting back and scared, I felt like this was the year. I mean, every year I'm working very hard, but I feel like this was the year, like, you know what I mean? I put together so many events together for the community. I did so much for the community. And that's when I even woke up like, yeah, this is like my light. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I love DJing. I love throwing parties and partying and doing all that cool stuff. But like the things that I was doing and accomplishing in 2020 with like community and the culture and the people and the city was like literally like next level. You know what I mean? So I know for sure for me, 2020 leveled me up to like a place that I would never even got to if 2020 didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like if 2020 literally didn't happen, things that I accomplished this year probably would have even been able to be accomplished, you know? But I feel like for the culture, I think the culture, 2020 brought the culture even more connected and more tight with, you know, with the COVID things, you know, the culture, we had to kind of get more creative. You know what I'm saying? That's when we seen all the creatives comes. We seen all the cool things you had to do from home. You know what I'm saying? And then when the George Floyd stuff came, we seen how like the community, I'm talking about, it was people in Nigeria rioting. It was people in London. It was people all over the world, literally. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was people, it was San Bernardino was boarded up. Like, you know what I mean? So I felt like for the culture of the 2020, granted, all that stuff was crazy, but I feel like it had to be, I mean, I wouldn't say it had to be, but I don't want to say I'm glad it happened, but it's like, dang it, I'm kind of like it. There was okay, how about this? It was a reason everything happened. How about that? And that reason brought people together. You know what I'm saying? And it brought to light the things that the culture doesn't want to see. And we, you know, even with like SARS, the situation in Nigeria, where it brought the culture together to like stop the police brutality all over the world. You know what I mean? So I feel like if it wasn't for 2020, a lot of things that will probably matriculate and mature, you know, down the line wouldn't even happen if it wasn't for 2020, because I feel like the things that's going to start moving forward with like defunding the police and all these things is going to be even more crazier and even more better for the culture moving forward because of the things that happens for 2020. So that's my take.
Thank you, Muda.
So for me, it's funny because, you know, it's like truth. I don't know if it's truth. Here's my opinion. Even more so, I do believe that narrative determines perceptions and perceptions determine realities. And with so many different realities, there needs to be so many different truths. And so because of that, there's a lot of confusion throughout the world. And so sometimes I know for me, I get a little bit pessimistic to see, will that confusion ever go away? So that's sometimes how I can feel at times.
Thank you, Freedom.
Hey Kia, one thing that I believe to be true is the timing, because I mean, you know, always hear time is very valuable. I was asked that question I was asked these questions in 2019. 2020, the beginning of 2020, my mom passed. And I mean, how valuable is time? Time is very valuable. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I really believed was important. And I still feel true to this day. Time is very valuable. I wish I had more time with my mom's anyway.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Time is very valuable, and we really appreciate your time, your trust, your honesty in continuing to share. So many of you were literally just giving and just willing to, and just part of why we even reached out again to bring you guys together. But we are out of time actually as well, and so we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna pass it over to Natalie.
And I'm gonna hot potato the ball right over to Lindsay for her to make just a few more comments before I close this out.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all the participants on this panel for this powerful conversation. And I really appreciated hearing everyone's perspectives, and to KayJo Creatives for sharing this project with us. I know we're all looking forward to the documentary, and at UCR Arts, we would love to host a screening of it. So I hope to see everyone again, hopefully soon, and hopefully in person. Again, thank you so much to Inlandia Institute and KayJo Creatives for inviting UCR Arts to be partners in this program, as well as part of our Third Thursday Talk series. Third Thursday Talks are made possible with the generous support of the Marjorie and Glenn Thomas Memorial Fund. Again, thank you so much, everyone. And it's been nice to meet everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Lindsay. So I just wanted to close out and say, to the men, we're here because of you. You teach us about humanity. Every time I listen to the parts of the documentary, every time I listen to just even hearing this conversation, right? There's so many things that stuck out to me. I just was thinking of all of the words that I would use to describe this panel. And it's just like honest, sincere, powerful, thoughtful fathers, sons, grateful, creative leaders. There are like so many things that I was thinking about, like beyond, the fact that you're also Black men, right? We're intentional about that. We're not afraid to say that, or we're not afraid to distinguish, make those distinctions. And I think that that's so important. And like Kia said, I so appreciate your time. I appreciate y'all being here, talking with us, being part of this journey. I really look forward to being able to deliver this project sooner than later, someday soon. So I really do appreciate y'all willing to sit down with us again. And thank you to all the folks who've helped put this together and all the attendees. So with that, I'll say good night, and thank you, everyone.